Pocono Raceway. Located in Blakesley, Pennsylvania, Pocono Raceway is perhaps one of the most mainstream oddities in North American racing. Shaped like a scalene triangle, the tri-oval breaks the norm for its uneven distance straightaways and a pointed triangular layout that's a far cry from the cookie cutter and normal oval track configurations. For context, its dimensions include a 3,740-foot main straightaway, a 3,055-foot backstretch, and a 1,780-foot straight between turns 2 and 3. The track has distinct banking in each of its 3 turns, 14 degrees in turn 1, 8 degrees in turn 2, and 6 degrees in turn 3. The 2.5-mile racetrack was actually inaugurated in 1966 when IndyCar's predecessor, the United States Auto Club, or USAC, held a 300-mile event in Pocono. In long separate stints from 1971 to 1989 and 2013 to 2019, Pocono was an IndyCar staple. Big accidents like the one that paralysed Robert Wickens in 2018 led to safety concerns that led to a sad end to one of the most iconic ovals in modern IndyCar history. Downtown Nashville. More popularly known as the Music City Grand Prix, IndyCar first graced the streets of Nashville, Tennessee in 2021. Traversing across the Korean War Veterans Memorial Bridge, the 2.17-mile track featured a golf club-shaped layout from an aerial view with 2 long straightaways and a box-like loop. As a result, the Grand Prix became the first major American race to include a long river crossing bridge. Aside from the iconic bridge, the street circuit also runs adjacent to Nissan Stadium, the home of the NFL's Tennessee Titans. In its first edition, former F1 driver Marcus Ericsson took the victory in the event, even after his car went airborne after hitting Sébastien Bourdais during the early stages. In addition, Ericsson and Grosjean shared that the track has similarities to the Baku City Circuit, which hosts the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The race was held in downtown Nashville area until 2023, before it was moved to Nashville Superspeedway the following year. Sanair Superspeedway. In one of the more hilariously named racetracks across the globe, IndyCar had sparing appearances at Sanair Superspeedway. Why was it hilarious, you might ask? Well, Sanair, air quotes, Superspeedway, measures at a measly 0.826 miles. That's right, the isosceles-looking tri-oval barely measures a mile but carries the name Superspeedway. Located in southwest Quebec, Canada, IndyCar first visited Sanair in 1984 and lasted only until 1986 due to its odd location and unexciting races. One noteworthy incident from the track, however, happened during the inaugural race when Rick Mears suffered serious leg injuries when he crashed on the main stretch. Ironically enough, the track that replaced Sanair on the calendar was Nazareth Speedway, which was previously tackled on our Weirdest NASCAR Tracks video. Downtown San Jose. During the Champ Car era, the streets of San Jose, California, hosted races with a very basic layout. Containing just 7 corners, the 1.443 street circuit featured several straightaways that traverse through Almaden Boulevard and South Market Street. While the location is quite odd, it goes a notch further as cars race through a chicane on the straightaways that cross train tracks. You heard that correctly. Due to the little elevation of the tracks, cars were bunny hopping on the circuit. Despite the oddity and challenges though, racing icon Sébastien Bourdais came away with 2 out of the possible 3 race victories that were run in the area before it was axed for the 2008 season. Streets and Airport of St. Petersburg. One of the most highly anticipated events on the IndyCar calendar is the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg for its half-street, half-airport configuration. Located in the Tampa Bay area, the races on the track feature high-quality racing given its well-planned layout and the inclusion of the runway of the nearby Albert Whitted Airport. Measured at a distance of 1.8 miles, the 100-lap race was first featured as a kart event back in 2003, before its rebranding as an IndyCar fixture in 2005. Its main attraction, the runway 725 of the airport, has been one of the longest-standing aviation fixtures in a major American race, even outlasting the likes of the Burke Lakefront Airport, which was included on the Grand Prix of Cleveland, and the eastern runway of the Edmonton City Centre Airport in Canada. For its exhilarating atmosphere, the street and airport of St. Pete has been the curtain raiser for the IndyCar calendar, or the first race of the series annually on home soil since it was included in 2005. NOLA Motorsports Park. In a one-off, IndyCar visited the New Orleans Motorsports Park in 2015. Originally built as a club circuit, the track hosted the series, which immediately turned into a sour situation. The race was bombarded with rain as qualifying was cancelled, and the majority of the race was run under the yellow flag. Due to this, the attendance for the event only amounted to around 10,000, and it was then reported that the promoter and track officials were involved in legal disputes after the race's conclusion. Originally scheduled to run until 2017 on a 3-year deal, the succeeding races were cancelled, and IndyCar never came back to the venue. For what it's worth, James Hinchcliffe won the rain-shortened race on the 2.74-mile track just a few weeks before he suffered serious and life-threatening injuries in a horrific accident in Indianapolis. Brands Hatch. One of the most historic and revered tracks in England that even predates Silverstone, Brands Hatch first played host to a USAC-sanctioned race way back in 1978. However, we would focus more on its most recent trip across the pond when CART held the London Champ Car Trophy on the track in 2003. An interesting note about the track's inclusion was that it ran its Indy layout for the event, which measured just around 1.192 miles, deviating from its massive 3.916-mile configuration. Unfortunately, IndyCar still hasn't returned to the venue ever since the establishment of the specific layout. In addition to this, CART and the Champ Car Series actually held several races in Europe in tracks such as Zolder in Belgium and Lausitz in Germany, the latter being the place wherein the unfortunate crash of Alex Zanardi occurred during the 2001 American Memorial race in the circuit. Due to the gravity of the accident, both of Zanardi's legs had to be amputated, and he needed so many blood transfusions that he actually joked about it later and claimed to be at least 50% German now. Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway. Located in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway is situated within the grounds of the Autodromo Internacional Nelson Piquet. The race's unique feature owes itself to the fact that it's a D-shaped speedway that shares its grounds with a road course, being one of the few hybrid racing tracks that IndyCar visited. It also became the first event held by CART in South America when it ran races from 1996 to 2000. In its inaugural edition, Brazilian driver Andre Ribeiro took the race victory on the Rio 400 edition of the event. In 1999, the race was renamed to the Rio 200, with Juan Pablo Montoya winning in his rookie season. Due to the aforementioned D shape, the track felt like neither an oval nor a regular racetrack. Turns 1 and 4 were heavy braking zones, while turn 2 and 3 are fast kinks taken on the edge of full throttle. Sao Paulo Street Circuit. A shout out should also be given to the succeeding Sao Paulo race that IndyCar ran from 2010 to 2013 that emanated from the streets of the city. Sao Paulo Santana District played host to the first ever championship race since the rebrand and held historical significance as it's the birthplace of F1 and racing legend Ayrton Senna. Will Power won the first 3 editions of the Sao Paulo event, while James Hinchcliffe drove to victory lane in its last iteration. Grand Prix of Houston. Originally, CART ran races in downtown Houston from 1998 to 2001. The track ran parallel to the George R. Brown Convention Center that featured a heavily quadrilateral layout which resembled 2 rectangles connected on top of the other. Then, after a 4-year hiatus, the series came back, but this time, the track ran adjacent to NRG Park in what resembled that of the Music City Grand Prix in Nashville and F1's Miami Grand Prix that ran next to an NFL venue. The 1.683-mile track featured long straightaways and a right-handed parabolica that was won by Sebastian Bourdais in 2006 and 2007. After that, it wouldn't be until 2013 when the series now known as IndyCar made its return to the track, utilising the second configuration. 4 races were held across 2 years, with 4 different drivers taking the checkered flag. Since 2015, however, IndyCar has yet to make a return to the once odd track. When asked about the worst tracks in history, many fans actually named the streets of Houston. Meadowlands Grand Prix. From 1984 up until 1991, IndyCar ran races in the Meadowlands Sports Complex in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Both layouts used during the time were heavily criticised by fans. The first race started out on a 15-turn, 1.6-mile long temporary road course in the parking lot around the Giant Stadium. Drivers hated the narrow nature of the track, and the racing around there was just awful. The semi-oval, which was introduced in 1988 to improve competition, was around 1.2 miles long and featured 6 corners. However, the streets around the Brendan Byrne Arena were still narrow, and the event never became profitable for the promoters. The races were often crash-filled due to the concrete walls surrounding the track. One of the only memorable moments came in 1990, when Arie Luyendyk missed turn 1 and veered off into the escape road. To rejoin the race, he needed to take an exit ramp into the Giants Stadium parking lot just to turn around. Caesars Palace. Gaining infamy as one of the worst tracks that Formula One has ever raced on, the parking lot of Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada, hosted 4 editions of the titular Grand Prix. The first 2 years were occupied by F1, while the 1983 and 84 races were sanctioned by CART. One big difference between the two sporting bodies, however, is the type of layout that they utilised. While F1 used the heavily criticised 2.26-mile layout that featured boring turns and straightaways, CART used an outer loop, which was an uneven hexagon that featured 6 corners and long straightaways that measured around 1.125 miles for 178 laps. Still situated in the middle of Las Vegas, the first kart race was won by legend Mario Andretti on his Penske Lola Cosworth, while the final race in the venue and of the 1984 season was claimed by fellow American Motorsports Hall of Famer Tom Snever on a March Cosworth by Meyer Motor Racing. As the track was still situated in a literal parking lot in the middle of the desert, the event was deemed too boring and top-level racing left Caesars Palace for good. Now, in our last video of this series, we discussed the weirdest racetracks NASCAR has ever raced on. Go and watch that video next. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and I'll see you soon.